Hi, my name is Tim. Today we're going to be making a potato and leek soup from central France called Vichyssoise. It tastes really good. It's only got like 5 ingredients. What more could you ask for? So to get started, what you're going to need is 3 or 4 leeks, about 1.5 pounds of potatoes. This is 2 pounds, so we're just going to use 3 of them. You're going to need 3 or 4 cups of chicken stock. I'm using a pint of heavy whipping cream, which is 473 milliliters, of course. You're going to need about 2 tablespoons of butter, something to garnish. I'm going to use chives. And then optionally, just that I like to put in it, is some pancetta. To make this vegan, you can exclude the pancetta, and then in place of butter, you can use olive oil for the cooking. And then in place of the heavy whipping cream, mix about a cup of cashews with a cup of water, let it soak for an hour, as much time as you can, but at least an hour, and then blend it together into a puree. But to get started, we need to clean and wash the leeks. So we're only going to be using the white parts for this recipe, so we're going to cut it at the end here and then just before the greens here. The way that leeks grow, they trap a bunch of dirt on the inside, so we need to cut it up a little bit smaller and then soak it in hot water for about 5 minutes, stirring it every now and then draining the water until we get most of the grit, or all of the grit if you can, out. And that's about as small as I'm going to cut them for now. We're going to puree them later, so it doesn't really matter. This is just so that we can sweat them. But we're looking for strips that are about this size, and then we're just going to drop them in the bucket and rinse them off with the water. Now to get started on the pancetta, we're going to go ahead and add about a 1/2 tablespoon of butter, and then our package of pancetta. We're going to add it to a pan that's just starting to warm up, so that the fat has a chance to render out of all of the pork. And then with that fat, we're going to use that to cook out all of the liquid from leeks. While the pancetta is starting to cook, we can go ahead and start peeling and slicing our potatoes. Now you can cut these as large as you'd like or as small as you'd like. They're just going to get pureed anyway. But the smaller you cut them, the faster they're going to cook. So as you can see, the pancetta is done. We also have some good browning that's on the bottom that we're going to be able to pick up later once we deglaze with the chicken stock. So we can just go ahead and take this out and reserve most of it for now. If you're not able to get all of it out, that's okay. And then we're going to add in our leeks. We want to make sure that these start to sweat but not actually brown. So they're going to become kind of translucent, and that's going to tell you when it's about good. So to speed that along, you can add it in a pinch or 2 with some salt. I'm using kosher salt, but whatever you have on hand works fine. Just be careful not to over salt it, because we are going to re-season this once we're done. Okay, now that we've sorted out most of the water, we can add the potatoes that we cut. We're going to want to mix those together and kind of level them down so they're all at about the same height, and then pour in just enough chicken stock to cover the potatoes. This should be about 3 cups. No, we're just gonna go ahead and use all 4 cups. And make sure that you don't add back in the pancetta that we took out, because we still need to puree this before we can reintroduce the pancetta, and you don't want to be pureeing pancetta or bacon. So we're going to cover this, and then we're going to bring it to like a low simmer, and then hold it there for maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes until these potatoes are cooked. It might take longer for you depending on how large you cut your potatoes. Okay, so this has been going for about 20 minutes or 25 minutes maybe. And as you can see, the potatoes are pretty much falling apart, which means that we're ready to blend it. What we can do is that we can use an immersion blender, or if you don't have an immersion blender, you could just use a standard blender. Just let this cool down a little bit so that you don't actually melt through your seal. But I'm just gonna immersion blend it, so turn off your heat and grab the immersion blender. Also go get your heavy whipping cream. So now that we're pretty good and blended, we can start adding the seasoning. So we're gonna go with salt. Traditionally you would use white pepper, or white peppercorns ground, which is the fully matured version of black peppercorns. But I only have black peppercorns right now. White peppercorns have a bit more of a pungent flavor, but if you add more black peppercorns, it pretty much does the same thing. I think originally they were probably using white peppercorns to just maintain the continuity of it being, a white soup. But black peppercorns will do just fine. It could be a little bit thicker, and I think it could use a little bit more salt, but I'm actually going to boil this down a little bit more to let it thicken up, and I'm going to reintroduce the pancetta again so that it can heat back up. We're just going to let that heat up, and then that'll be it, and we just need to plate it up. Okay, now that we've got it moved to a serving bowl, the way that I like to do this is I like to put some bread in it. I've got a baguette that I chopped up. And then we can sprinkle on our chives. And some black pepper. And then I like to give it a drizzle of olive oil as well, but totally optional. I think it goes well with the bread. Yeah. Traditionally, this can be served either hot or cold. More often than not, it's actually served cold. Just make sure that if you put pork in it as bacon or as pancetta, you heat it up again. Don't eat cold bacon or cold pancetta. It's weird. But if you don't put the pancetta in, totally good. It's almost like a loaded baked potato soup, but it's got that nice oniony like undertones in the flavors. Yeah, that's really good. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.